Indigenous Rights Radio, because knowledge is power.
The Cultural Survival Bazaars are a series of cultural festivals organized by Indigenous Peoples' rights organization Cultural Survival that provides Indigenous artisans and artists, cooperatives, and their representatives from around the world the chance to sell their work directly to the public. Come and shop Indigenous at our bazaar in Newburyport, Massachusetts on the 19th and 20th of July 2025, and then again at Tiverton Four Corners in Tiverton on July 25th, 26th, and 27th, 2025. In this podcast, we hear from Annawon Weeden, who will be attending the bazaar this year.
My name is Annawon Weeden, enrolled member of the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe. Mashpee's the tribe, Wampanoag is the nation. We're located in southeastern Massachusetts. I'm a father of 5, been trying to keep the culture alive through various means. Education is very important, and I realize in our New England region that the average person doesn't have enough to even appreciate New England, let alone the history and culture here. So my goal, I guess, has been just finding new ways to bring people's attention to things that have been in this area for thousands of years, bridge relationships between the environment and ourselves. And one thing that's proven really good at doing all of that is my art, particularly the wampum, which I make from the quahog shell, one of the many clams we have here in our ocean.
Thank you so much, and we're excited to be able to interview you. Let's talk more about your craft. What does it mean to you, and what does it mean to your people? How important is it, and how long has it been around?
Well, wampum is the, product that's been made from the quahog shell. Quahog is a clam. We have many clams, soft shell and hard shell here in New England, but of the hard shell variety, the quahog, traditionally suquahog was the word, and that described the dark shell clam. And anyone from the New England region who knows which clam I'm talking about, it's the deep, rich, dark purple that is found within the shell that not only made it suquahog, the dark shell clam, but it also allowed us to extract that thickest, darkest portion of the shell to make a bead that was very dark and contrasted well against the white, which you can find in many shells, the white beads that went along with the dark beads. They would illustrate our stories. So the oldest recorded information for our people was recorded in that way, passed down orally, the stories and details that go with the designs that were woven using these beads. However, those designs weren't just, something to look at. They were worn. They were carried around proudly, worn by leadership, taken out at different times to remind the community why each and every one of those beads were needed to capture such an important part of our history. So it goes back well before pencil and paper ever arrived on this side of the world. And as far as value, it's really strange when you hear people consider wampum money. You may have heard the term used in that way. However, it was not a currency to us. We valued the stories. We valued the time that it took to make each individual bead. It could take up to a lifetime, if not more than one lifetime, to accumulate enough beads just to tell one story for one community. However, these beads were traded well beyond the ocean front that allowed you to have access to the resource. So it's kind of almost my duty, if you will, as a Wampanoag who has access to this resource still, to not only historically carry it and bring it to the tribes as far away as Minnesota, clear on the other side of the Great Lakes. You would have the Ojibwe and Anishinaabe people who would also use those beads in the same exact manner. And you can imagine the value it would probably increase being so far from the ocean. So it was utilized beyond this region, and it was utilized by many tribes pretty much to record our history.
That's amazing, and we're grateful that you are still practicing this, making these shells, and we understand why it means so much to you. Take us into your world. Just share with us about your community and your territory. Tell us a little bit about the Wampanoag people and why something like this would be so important to them.
Ironically enough, our Wampanoag tribe hosted our 104th annual gathering this weekend. So for anyone who listens to this interview, 4th of July weekend, we welcome everyone to our community, again located on Cape Cod, and this was the 104th annual. So that's how long we've been celebrating that way with the public, whereas a lot of these historic powwows or gatherings that tribes still have, they went on well before that. My tribe or nation, Wampanoag as a nation, we were the first to see and interact with colonists. Cape Cod reaches out into the ocean, and for that reason, we always identified ourselves as people of the first light. So being the furthest east on that piece of land, seeing the sun every morning for others, it's something that we've always taken important. It's literally what forms our identity, and we firmly believe that's why Creator put us there, to give thanks to that sun. And again, appreciate all the resources and relations, as we call them. We call them our relatives, all the plants and animals, the water beings, the animals in the sky. They were all our relatives and still are. So we're pretty abundant in resources or relatives. And therefore we have a lot of Thanksgivings. Ironically enough, our tribe is known for the historic American Thanksgiving. However, green corn was celebrated before the mature corn. So that particular crop, for example, would actually have two different harvests and two different celebrations to celebrate and give thanks for it. Strawberry Thanksgiving is probably the closest to this time of year, being the end of June and whatnot. Typically is the strawberry harvest, which is one of the first berries that we have. We have many berries, cranberries, which are very unique to our area. So we're very grateful to have a diverse diet. We've always been known to be a very tall, pretty healthy people. And personally myself, I tell a lot of the kids who ask me, wow, how'd you get so tall? I tell them it's those clams, the same clams that I was talking about earlier. As beautiful as they are, they're also a great lean source of protein. So we're pretty fortunate to still be on our homelands and still have much of our traditional life ways, but particularly our diet.
Thank you so much. Good to hear about the resources. Very important that we take our relatives into consideration with everything we do. But from an economic perspective, what are the economic circumstances like where you live?
Difficult, as anyone can imagine. If you're familiar with Cape Cod, that particular real estate, very expensive. One of the premier locations, beachfront locations on the East Coast. And it's really hard to afford to live there. A lot of the homes that have been built, far overpriced. If you go to many traditional communities, we're modest people living in sometimes smaller homes, don't need too much. And it's been a struggle mainly just to maintain our position in our homeland. Fortunately, when the Trail of Tears was being forced upon most tribes and the tribes were being relocated, they did a survey and study and realized how attached and integral our lands are to our survival, particularly our cultural survival. However, that allowed us to remain there during the time period when many tribes were being relocated. However, the struggles have only increased as prices have increased. It's not a year-round community, so to speak. It's very tourist-based, and a lot of its, jobs, retail, things shut down in the winter. They get very slow and dead. And it's also very much almost like a retirement community. So I notice a lot of the elderly folks seem to kind of almost monopolize, how the infrastructure and things will be done out there on Cape Cod. But Mashpee was known as the fastest growing town in the entire nation, I believe, at one point. Throughout the 80s and into the 90s, Mashpee was the fastest growing town in the Commonwealth, and it's just increased at a rate that we kind of lost control. We were historically the firemen, the policemen. Mashpee was completely pretty much an indigenous community, and we were able to maintain our budgets. Other towns would extend their budgets, and we were always working and functioning as a municipality under our own steam, if you will. Over time, the selectmen who, again, designed the rules in the town, the selectmen started to become developers, and the developers strategically changed rules and regulations in our town to accommodate the growth and, unfortunately, the pollution. A lot of the septic and other issues came up that were affecting the water quality. And Mashpee, I need to remind folks, again, that's my tribe. Wampanoag is the nation. So I mentioned earlier, Wampanoag, First Light people, people of the First Light. That's what you're saying and what the word means when you say Wampanoag. Mashpee or Mashpee literally means great water. So the water has always been an integral part of our, not just community, but our identity. And when you lose the quality of your water, obviously you lose the quality of your identity, if you will. So maintaining water quality has been hard. It still is, again, with the number of people who live there. But it's a very competitive market, as you can imagine. Boston is one of the closest cities where, if you wanted to go into the big city to work, it's still a pretty long distance. So it's just, tough, I know, financially for people to maintain on Cape Cod. I feel very fortunate that my career has been, schools, not that it's the most wealthy living to make, but it does keep me busy even through the winter, visiting schools, again, education. But, during the summer months, that's when it gives a lot of us artists, especially, an opportunity to travel to the powwows and share some of our cultural arts, if not travel and do the dances as well that take place at powwows.
Awesome. And will this be your first cultural survival bazaar that you will be attending, or have you been there before?
No, I usually enjoy them. I feel very honored whenever I'm invited. I've been very fortunate to perform for the Prudential Center, which is a pretty prominent venue up in the city. Again, the city of Boston doesn't experience enough of our culture. Tiverton was another location I know I've done. Cultural survival, I'm sure, goes all around the world, so I kind of only do the regional celebrations here. But yeah, this year will probably be my fourth or fifth cultural survival event.
Awesome. And what can folks expect to see from you? Anything new that you're bringing? I'm giving you a chance to just promote what you will be exhibiting.
Well, in addition to my jewelry, and I got the Pequot syrup as a Mashantucket Pequot through my father. That's the tribe in Connecticut, and they have a lot bigger trees. They have a little more conducive environment and weather patterns for the maple harvest. So I do have their maple syrup with me. I also print shirts, party like it's 1491. That's a motto I think all of us should live by, especially in the cultural survival field. But I have those t-shirts as well that I usually have on stock. But in addition to all of these wares that I'll be bringing with me to sell, I've been asked to attend the Tiverton, Rhode Island celebration with some games and hands-on activities. So again, all of this is just to educate people and give them ways and things to appreciate. And when you can literally get them to stop and just spend time with their own hands creating something that they get to leave with, it's really hard for them to forget all that, the Cultural Survival Bazaar will share, all the time that I'm sure I'll get to exchange and share with them the information I hopefully can pass along about our region. And, again, any other tribes that are out there, I really appreciate how the cultures really do a good representation of representing themselves. Sometimes we can get caught up in just trying to give people what they want, not necessarily what they need. So I'm looking forward to families. If we got young ones, I'm sure they'll love the games and activities that I have in store. But again, I see a lot. I am a parent, as I mentioned, and I always enjoy doing these kinds of things with my children. So ideally, I hope to see multiple generations, grandparents and children and grandchildren and full families enjoying all of these festivities, the games, the activities, the arts, the music. There's so much to enjoy at the Cultural Survival Bazaars.
Yes, indeed. Before I let you go, do you think young people in your community, do they see artisanal work as something that they would want to do? Is the future of our arts and crafts in good hands? Do you think the youth will take it to the next level and take it forward?
They kind of absolutely need to. I don't want to, beat anything into anybody, I do my best to just try and make it look fun and engage, my dance. I have a lot of young dancers who look up to me because of my dance. And my goal is just to show them how much fun I have out there, not to make it look like work, and also help them understand its importance. As far as arts, I've been fortunate to discover the arts that I have. Wampum was not being made when my dad was first brought into this world. My dad grew up in a city kind of setting himself, and he had only heard about wampum. He had never seen it being manufactured or produced. And it was something that was very important to him to learn about, let alone revive. So I know for a fact before he passed on, he did tell me how important it was to see his son and wampum, kind of coming back. He wanted to see it come back, but to see his son bring it back. And one of the many artists, I'm not the only one, there were many other artists who do it, but he didn't have any of that when he was younger, and it was something that was important. And that kind of set a tone to me, not just for wampum, but my dad made that impression pretty early on in my life that all of our culture is important. The songs, the dances. Fortunately, language was not even being offered when I was a child, but it is now. So in some ways, we're doing, I guess, far better because we have things like language, things like wampum have come back. However, I don't know who I have to talk to about, this social media and a lot of the distractions that we have, that unfortunately a lot of our children spend way too much time on phones and technology. And as great as it may be for inspiring artists like myself to go online and see other artists doing whatever they do, or having that inspiration, if all you do is focus on technology, you're going to get away from being in the water to harvest the clams. You're not going to, it is a very dangerous time, I see, for culture overall. I'm doing my part, but having events like Cultural Survival, creating opportunities for us as artists to, again, work and network with other artists, to be inspired by how other cultures are representing and, sharing their resources. These are things that I feel, again, very fortunate every time I've been part of it. I don't know how to get other people intrigued and interested in it. I feel very fortunate. I get to sell seashells by the seashore. I don't know how many people get to do that, but it's a very, I don't dare say convenient. It's almost like a responsibility. So that importance, again, I don't want to beat it into any children. You kind of can't sometimes. You kind of have to let them gravitate to it. But I've been very fortunate. The wampum helps me to travel. I make a great amount of money in some situations, depending on where I am and how readily available it may be, or how educated those people are on the resource. It's really hard to, forgive me for using the term, sell it, but if you don't know what you're looking at, it doesn't really mean much to people. Whereas once people understand the value and the stories and all the importance that gets with it, wampum itself is, I notice a lot of people just, again, don't know enough about it to value it to the point that they would want to buy it. So I don't know, maybe it's a twofold thing, just teaching the education that is required, not only for the public to appreciate it, but for our own youth to appreciate it. But most importantly, we have venues to show our art. Cotuit Center for the Arts is a prominent venue on Cape Cod. And until this year, I was asked to perform last year a theatrical piece on their stage. And being a performance center, their focus, I thought, was, performances, if you will. When I did not get on their stage last year, they asked me to come this year. And with me, they were trying to bring our arts. And I'm glad I didn't perform last year by myself, because I can't even begin to describe how impressed and honored and overwhelmed, really, I was with the amount of artists we currently have. I didn't know we had that many artists until that venue allowed all of us artists to pour our heart and souls into the exhibit. I have personally never seen such an exhibit of Wampanoag art. And it does show that, pretty much to answer your question, our arts are doing pretty well. It was covering historic art and contemporary art, obviously all points in between. A lot of the resources that we have access to were represented through the arts. And it personally, hopefully will inspire future artists who haven't even tried yet. Like, wow, with that kind of a venue and we had a huge audience, huge turnout. The exhibit was up for a month. Unfortunately, it's down now. I believe All Our Relations is what they titled the exhibit, and I really hope it can in some way return in places at later times, because we really just need places, if you will, to showcase our arts. It's one thing we make them, it's one thing we have the skill or the resources still available, but what I see really pushing artists to continue doing art, and it's not for me selling it, it's really honestly just being around other artists like the Cultural Survival Bazaar, where I get to meet other cultures from beyond my region. That particular exhibit I just talked about helped me to focus on arts within our region, but it also inspired every artist who was part of it, just seeing all these artists and how they represent their culture. So I again appreciate Cultural Survival for doing this for all of us.
And we appreciate you for coming to showcase at our next bazaar. It sounds to me like Wampanoag art is in very, very good hands, and we're grateful to have you at our next bazaar. Thank you so much for joining us today. Just before we let you go, can you tell folks where to get a hold of you on social media?
Annawon W is pretty much all my profiles. Instagram, Facebook, you can just look me up. Snapchat, I want to say it's all Annawon W. That's spelled ANNAWONW. I do a lot of, again, education work through my social media, mainly my Instagram. However, my Instagram, I do have a personal, artist account, First Light Fashion, if you wanted to see some of the actual art. First Light Fashion on Instagram, and the Wampanoag Experience is also on Instagram, which is a different profile I set up for the public events that I do that allow the public to interact with us. So you can follow any of those pages, and hopefully you'll get different content on those different pages. And Facebook is where everybody tags me, so I guess you get to see a lot more of what I do on Facebook too. So hopefully I'll see folks on social media if I haven't reached them already through the interview.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you, Annawon.
I appreciate you guys highlighting our culture. Thank you.
For more on the rights of Indigenous peoples, visit cs.org and follow Cultural Survival on Facebook and X.